Shalom. I want to start by giving all praise to Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahushai, Ba'asham Kakadash, double honors to the apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone for teaching of scriptures, among other things, and salutations to all the Akyam across the earth who do this work in sincerity and truth, and Shalom to the sincere brothers and sisters who are at home watching the videos and do their best to please Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahushai. So yeah, man, this video, I just want to go into basically two articles concerning the small heads, these Israelis, how they are losing more sympathy from basically from the other, the people around them, the heathens, basically other countries. They don't, they losing the sympathy, they don't feel pity for them anymore, They keep pulling the anti-systemic card, but it doesn't really work. So this is let me see. It happened. This is from yesterday. Yeah, this is an article from yesterday, from Saturday, and it was a flight from Vueling, and they had some I believe like 50, nearly 50 small heads, young ones, and a couple adults. They were put off a plane after misbehaving. And that's what these smalls were doing, because the time when they came to Holland with the Maccabi, supporters, when they had a soccer match against Ajax in Amsterdam, they were going wild, and you only had Bender, was a young guy. He was the only one filming the damage and the shit that these Maccabi supporters were doing. Meanwhile, the whole the other media, basically, they didn't film it. They didn't speak about it. They were only talking about how you said that, how these Moroccan people were getting them back, and they were making it seem like they were the victims. Meanwhile, these Maccabi supporters were singing songs about that there were no schools in Gaza anymore because there were no children and all that. And you got a lot of people that have this Palestine flag hanging on the balcony and stuff like that, and they were pulling the flags down, and they even rioting with the police, grabbing iron poles and stuff like that, and bricks. And yeah, they were fucking with taxi drives and all that, and the taxi drivers weren't taking that, because also the day that these Maccabi supporters had to go back to Israel, all the taxi drivers from Amsterdam, none of them, they all refused to bring them to the airport, and they also had to be protected by the Marechaussee. And that's funny because the scriptures, the scriptures are very clear. If the real children of Israel is going to be put back in the country by the hand of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, and through His Son, Yahushua, going to be put back in the land of Israel, they're gonna be protected by the Heavenly Father. Nobody even gonna do anything against them. So what you see going on, and this is beautiful, because what is going on with these people is that the curses is the curses that are on our people, on the real children of Israel, the so-called Negros, Latinos, and the so-called Indianos, are being put upon them. Let me just jump in this article. France demands clarification of incident involving French Jewish teenagers on plane. Is there discrimination? Wait a minute, let me grab the other article. Let me see. I think this article is the same. Yeah, this article is doper. Oh, still they updated. But yeah. It's funny because you had one of these mothers of one of these little devils, because they are Edomites, Amalekites, the head tribe of Edomites, of Esau. That's what they are. And you had the mother talking about, yeah, it's the same like in the war, this and that. Let me just read the article a little bit. France demands clarification over incident involving French Jewish teenagers on plane. Is there discrimination? France is demanding clarification from Spanish airline Vueling after approximately 50, yeah, still 50, yeah, 50 French small-head teenagers were removed from a plane earlier this week for misconduct. And the fun part is the Guardia Civil, the Spanish police, they don't play with your ass. They are not like the Dutch police and having a whole ass conversation with you. No, you just listen and do exactly what they say. And if you don't listen, they just gonna beat you down and put you in handcuffs. And that happened with one of those adult leaders of the small heads. They were just put down. Let me see. Uh, the Spanish ambassador has also been summoned, the French foreign minister announced. We have requested an explanation, in particular to determine whether these French children have been victims of discrimination, the department said, because they're ready to put in the anti-systemic card. Meanwhile, they be misbehaving. These people are a bunch of beasts. That's what they are. And now it's beautiful because now more and more countries, they can't go around it. Look what they are doing in Gaza. And don't get me wrong, I don't give a shit about the Palestinians neither, because if I would walk over there in Gaza, either the small heads and these Palestinians, they will both would try to kill me. So fuck them both. And none of them belong to that country. It's for the real children of Israel, the so-called Negros, Latinos, and the so-called Indianos. So let me see. The young people were returning from summer camp on Wednesday. Cabin crew called the police when the teenagers were behaving aggressively and threatening to break safety equipment. You see that? Police had great difficulty removing the group from the plane. At Valencia Airport, the teenagers continued to behave disruptively. A 20-year-old companion was arrested. Vueling was accused of anti-systemic behavior, but says the group was removed for the safety of the other passengers. You see that? Because all these years, these small heads, these Amalekites, these big-nosed people, all these years they've been misbehaving and doing whatever they want, and everybody was just accepting it. But the things are changing, times are changing. They are not getting away like how they used to do with their behavior. The Spanish low-cost airline said in a statement. That's also a thing. You go with a budget airline also. But yeah, you want to act like you are the people, right? The Spanish low-cost airline said in a statement that the group sought confrontation. Teenagers aged between 13 and 15 and all from France were on their way to Paris Orly Airport after a summer camp in the Spanish resort of Calella. Footage widely shared on media showed one of them being roughly assaulted by the Guardia Civil. Many internet users reacted with outrage. Yeah, but they don't want to see they don't even see what happened before that. They only see the clip where this small devil is being arrested, but they don't see what he was doing before that. But that's the thing. The people that support these small heads, these big nose people, they only I said that they only want to see the repercussions that they get for their behavior. That's the only thing that they see, but they don't look on the shit that they've been doing. Look how they be murdering those people that going over there in Gaza to get some food. Women and children. They just shoot them. For fun, throwing hand grenades and shit like that. So also saw an article about a doctor who was working in Gaza and said that they were playing games like hitting him, shooting him in the stomach or in the nuts, things like that. So yeah, and a lot of these ex-soldiers also from the Israeli military, they also a lot of them quit and talk about the horrible games that they are playing with the people over there. The mother of one of the teenagers told I-24 News that staff threatened to call the police after the group starts saying a song in Hebrew. And that's not Hebrew what they're singing, is Yiddish, you know. They don't have the Hebrew, they use Yiddish. Calm was quickly restored, but the Guardia Civil was still called. So they said that they were singing a song, you know, that was all that they were doing. Calm was quickly restored, but the Guardia Civil was still called in and everyone was removed from the plane. A 20-year-old attendant was reportedly handcuffed and wrestled to the ground. The children were left in shock at the airport. Okay, what about the Palestinian children and that see their parents being shut up, you know, shoot up, you know, limbs that being, you know, cut off and all that shit, you know, houses being destroyed. But like I said, I don't give a fuck about them neither, you know. The children were left in shock at the airport, said the woman, who described it as an anti-systemic incident reminiscent of World War II. You ain't saying you see nothing yet. When Yahushua is gonna come back in the Third World War, then you're gonna see something, you know. Then you're gonna see. Because all your small head, all your heathens, you know, you're gonna be put down, you know, you're gonna be set down to powder, you know. Then you're gonna see the true power when Yahushua is gonna come back. Yahushua, who the world in ignorance calls Jesus, you know. Dark skinned man with a big chariot, you know, big ship, a lot of chariots, people gonna be burned and melted and zapped to powder, man. So, Slack, yeah. Whaling denies this version of events, stating in a statement that the teenagers behaved aggressively and damaging emergency equipment on board the plane. The group received several warnings, ultimately decided to call the civil guard. The teenagers were removed from the plane because the safety of other passengers was at risk. According to the airline, the crew's decision had nothing to do with the teenagers' religious beliefs. We respect that. Because that's the thing, you can't say nothing about it, you know. If you tell something about their behavior, then they pull the anti-systemic card, you know. Then you being a racist and all that. The Guardian Civil confirmed in a statement that 47 minors and 4 adult escorts were removed from the plane on Wednesday because of their behavior. You see that? Force was used on one of the escorts because that person did not follow the officer's orders. And like I said, the Guardia Civil, they don't play, man. You just do what they say, and if you don't do what they say, then they're going to beat you down, man. The statement said the Guardia Civil emphasized that no arrests were made. Due to the incident, the flight in question departed 2 hours and 20 minutes late. Some of the teenagers were able to catch another flight to Paris later that day. Others were forced to spend the night in Spain. You see that? And I really enjoy to see them suffering, you know. So this also another article from a couple of days ago. It's also beautiful about some rabbis. Group of rabbis harassed in Eindhoven city center soon sped on. A group of rabbis was intimidated last Tuesday while walking in Eindhoven. Jewish smallhead spiritual leaders and teachers from across Europe were in the city for a conference. We were spat at pretty quickly. Yeah, of course you're going to be spat at. People despise you, you know. Including by young people who cycled through the group. Shimsha Steinberg, of always Steinberg of the Eindhoven smallhead community told the Telegraaf they also shouted things like cancer Jews, Hamas, all Jews to the gas, and free Palestine. It was very intimidating. Steinberg, who is also the rabbi of the Dutch Israelite main synagogue of Brabant, says law enforcement officers were present and that the police was nearby. The incident happened late Tuesday afternoon, around 5:15 a.m., near the De Witte Dam Library. It involved 5 or 6 people. According to Chief Rabbi Benjamin Jacobs, who was also present, this wasn't a one off incident. The group reportedly faced intimidation from various groups of people on several occasions. And that's beautiful, man. They cannot even walk around anymore like that. The rabbis want to report the incident to the municipality, but that hasn't been successful yet because the correct contact person hasn't been reached. But they are taking it serious, says Steinberg. This is about safety. Yeah. It's done with your safety, man. It's done with your safety. Even your country, in Israel, you've been bombed. The Rabbinical Center of Europe conference took place from Monday to Wednesday in Eindhoven. The RCE regularly organizes meetings for European rabbis on smallhead law, culture, custom, and contemporary challenge. The number of anti-systemic incidents has risen sharply in Europe since the Hamas terrorist attack on. You see that? But they not talking about them attacking them ever since they set foot there, but they talk about how they been attacked, which is also of, if you ask me, something that's been set up. Doesn't look very real to me. But yeah. And the war in Gaza in the Netherlands, the number of reported anti-systemic incidents has increased by 818% since those events. You see how they over exaggerated it. So it's not by 100% more now; it's 880%. According to figures from CD Center for Information Documentation, smallhead country. Fake. But yeah, this is beautiful, man. Let me grab scripture here. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30 and 7. And Yahweh thy power will put all these curses upon thy enemies and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. And that's just what's going on. Let me read some of these curses that they are how is it, enjoying right now. Let me see. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse. Let me see. And verse 37, and thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither Yahweh shall lead thee. See that? Because, like I read, how they were singing the song and calling them cancer Jews, cancer smallheads, let me see. Let me see, verse 65. Verse 65. And among these nations shalt thou find no ease, neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest, but Yahweh shall give thee there a trembling heart and failing of eyes and sorrow of mind. And that's basically what they're feeling now. They being afraid, they were for a while untouchable, but that time is done. Iran bombed them. They try to hide a lot of places that were bombed by Iran. Even these Houthi rebels from Yemen, even they are bombing these smallheads. And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shall have no assurance of thy life. No, the sound, the air alarm is going off all the time, and they be hiding in their bunkers and all that. In the morning, verse 67, in the morning thou shalt say, would Yahweh it were even, and at even thou shalt say, would Yahweh it were morning, for the fear of thine heart, wherewith thou shalt fear, and for the sight of thine eyes, which thou shalt see. And they are and they are going into that now. It's beautiful to see, man. So when I read articles like that, it really makes my day, man, to see these smallheads suffering. They cannot even walk the street anymore just like that without being harassed. And this is things that we had to deal with after slavery, in the times of segregations, when we were so-called free, we still had to deal with all this bullshit that these devils were doing to us. Yeah, you were walking on the street, you had the chance that they just grab you and lynch you, because those are the things that they used to do. They spit on, this is nothing yet, man. But the time's gonna be, man. Y'all, the devil's gonna get it, man. So yeah, man, with that, I'm gonna give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahushai, Ba'asham Kakadash, double honors to the apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone for teaching of scriptures, among other things, and salutations to all the Akyam across the earth for doing this work in sincerity and truth. So with that, I couldn't say Shalom.